there is a team of researchers, and I heard many people talking about Oklahoma State University. We have one of the professors involved here. Her name is Lydia Wang. I mean, here is the actual name. And obviously is Stephen Thomas and Sean Schwartz. So the project, or the part of the project I'm going to present today, is part of, or was born after a conversation we had. Because we were talking about motivation and how students get motivated in our countries. So after this conversation, we developed this model for a study, and we call it the JUC project. Why JUC? Because one thing I learned in the United States is that you need to find fancy acronyms in order to succeed. JUC stands for Japan, the USA, Uruguay, and China. Why Uruguay? Because I'm Uruguayan. I'm an international student, and I'm also a teacher trainer and professor there. So I brought my knowledge to the table, and we were discussing about these issues. So we are interested in working with 7th graders, or the equivalent in the different cultures, how they get motivated to read, and how culture influences that motivation to read. So basically this is the whole project. So what I'm going to do today is to share, first of all, the purpose of the whole study. The purpose of the whole study is to explore reading motivation across cultures, and how each culture encourages reading motivation in students' goal for reading. Which you may think, well, isn't it the same? But when we were discussing, we realized that it's not the same at all. And basically, in China and in Japan, we have very big differences. And the same in Uruguay. And you are going to see this in my presentation today. And then find ways that educators can encourage and increase student reading motivation. So the Uruguayan piece is the one that I'm going to present today. And not the whole Uruguayan piece, but just the qualitative part, because we are developing a quantitative part too there. So another purposes I have for this presentation is to identify possible implications for pre-service teachers in Uruguay. Why for pre-service teachers? Because I'm a teacher trainer. So I'm interested in knowing what my trainees need in order to be better teachers in terms of reading and in terms of motivation. And then explore students' experiences in reading ESL. And I have to confess that I have written ESL, and after the presentation from yesterday, why ESL? Why is English my second language? And it made me think that actually English is not my second language because I'm fluent in other languages, and I was fluent in other languages before being fluent in English. So that made me think a lot. And thanks to Professor, Emeritus Professor, I don't remember his name. So there are 3 key points that I want to emphasize in this presentation. The first one, that reading is a form of literacy. So that's why it's so important that we motivate our students to read. The second thing is that the students' performance in reading is influenced by how motivated they are. If they are not motivated, they are not going to read. And then the last thing is that understanding those drives to read and how culture influences that motivation is very important in order to improve and develop the reading skills. So, in Uruguay, I was interviewing students in 3 different schools from 3 different contexts. One was a rural school, the other one was an urban school, but with the students at risk, and then the other one was a middle-class urban school. There were 20 students, 13 were female, and they were chosen by the principals and teachers, and they were from different reading levels, different backgrounds. I mean, they were representative of the different institutions' populations. Then, I did a case study with multiple case design, with interviews, 20 minutes more or less, and then the students students talk about their views on school, personal opinions regarding teaching, reasons for reading, instead of teaching, and what motivates them to read. And I use Envivo to analyze it. So what the results? After the second polling, what I got was this: that motivation, that motivation to read can be seen in two different ways: academic reading and non-academic reading. And I am a little more interested in academic reading because of my pre-service teachers, but I think the other one, the non-academic, also influences the academic. So what I found is that, and you are going to see that there are different reasons for intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. They are organized from the more popular to the less popular. So, for example, the first one was interest, curiosity, and novelty. And the majority of the students says to avoid boredom. So they read to do this. And then, because of the value they see in reading, because they want to learn and they want to be someone in life. And this is a literal translation of what they say in Spanish, ser alguien en la vida. And what is to ser alguien en la vida? Is to have a better job, is to be like a mutant in Giroux's term, is to be above the status quo that their parents have. If their parents are blue-collar employees, to have a better position in society and in life. Enjoyment and then flow experience. I don't know if you're familiar with the theory of flow, but Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And some of the students said that when they read, they are in another world. They are involved. They lose the idea of time. And one of the students said, when I read, sometimes my mom has to come and tell me, you have read too much, or food is ready, come to the table and let's have dinner. So these experiences where students are really involved and the skills are involved and the students lose the idea of time and the effort they are putting in their ideas was in their activity, those are very important. But also something that appeared in the research was their extrinsic motivation. And when I talk about the extrinsic motivation, you know that there are different drives in extrinsic motivation. But the one that appeared as the most prominent one is compliance. And we are going to see why. And they said things like, because the teacher tells me to read, that is the reason they do it. Because reading will impact on my grades. Because I read everything I am asked to read, and I want to emphasize the asked to read. I do it because I have no choice. And some people say that they do it to learn, because we, in Uruguay, we have the road, the idea that education is the only thing that will help us be better in life, have a better job. We know that there are different variables playing an important role here, and it's not only education. I also found a demotivator here, and the demotivator was that the reading materials were boring. In terms of non-academic reading, I found that in terms of intrinsic motivation, the same thing, they read to avoid boredom, and because they are personally interested in reading what they read. Like one of the kids said, I read about animals because they are so nice, and I know everything about tigers. Do you want to ask me about tigers? And he was so willing to talk and to share what he knew about it. And then, because of their likes. Some people like sports, so they read about sports. Some people like music, so they read about music. And talking about extrinsic motivation, because some people tell them to read. For example, moms and dads. And there are many of the students, I would say 18 out of 20, that said that either his or her father or mother was asking them to read. Like, Juancito, you have to read because reading is very important for your You are going to be a better student if you read more. So reading has a very important role in what parents believe about them and about their future especially. So all these results led us to some implications for future teachers, or for my training. Sorry, before going into that. You may be wondering why compliance was so important here in academic reading. And I'm going to tell you why. Elementary and middle school are compulsory everywhere. So basically, if you don't attend middle school, the police can take you and can tell your parents, you have to send your kids to school because it's compulsory. Or the government gives little money to the kids that attend school. You do not receive that money if you are not attending school. So all these are external motivators that tell you that until middle school, you have to go to school. And there are no substitutions like here that you can have homeschooling or you can have other choices. No, the only possibility is to physically go to school. Then the participants were highly influenced by their families. When they said, para ser alguien en la vida, and I was laughing when he was presenting to them, he was saying that Latinos all usually get late. Well, this is not really the case in my case. I'm usually on time. Sometimes my co-workers are a little late, but then, and they are not Latinos, I'm only Latino. And then the model of education still focuses on the teacher. So the teacher is the one who has the power. So if I tell you to read this, you have to read this. And then families in general do not value reading at home as a free time activity. So this is another aspect that influences why kids read more academic things, because they are told to do so by their teachers. And what should we tell pre-service teachers? First of all, to give choices. Since the role of the teacher is so important, what we have to do is to start an autonomy process. We need to help our students to be more autonomous, to be more self-regulated, to know why they want to read, and to know why it's important to read, and not just for the reason that most of them say, that they read because the teacher says so. The other aspect is that they need to feel the necessity to read. And how this may happen? Because we can use problem-solving activities. This is done in medicine, and it should be done more in education. And in the ESL programs, this is pretty common right now, to use PBL, or problem-solving activities, or problem-based learning, that's why PBL, such as WebQuest, to promote reading through curiosity and novelty, since it's one of the high-frequency motivators that they were citing. And then use formative assessment as a way to promote mastery goals and non-academic reading. So to promote non-academic reading, and at the same time to use more formative assessment. Why formative assessment? Because formative assessment is not focused on the grade, but is focused on the skill, in the mastery of the skill. Then to strike a balance between summative and formative assessment, because what I found is that teachers were asking them to read just to give them a grade, but not because they were apparently interested in the development of the skill. Or probably because the teachers realized that the motivation for the students was to get a good grade. And then to create opportunities for social interaction, where students can freely share and discuss. Because what I found, or what we found in the data, is that the students were not sharing with their peers, with their family, what they read. On the contrary, it wasn't an isolation or isolated activity. They read for themselves. So basically, this is what I have to share with you today. So thank you, and if you have comments and questions, they are going to be very welcome. So I think we now have...
Well, can you presenters will come to the front, so we have a few